Welcome back, everybody. Unit 8 is our climate changing. Yes, before we're going to go into reading 1, we're going to look at the focus on the topic. There are 3 questions. Number 1, what are some ways in which the Earth is changing? All right, I want you to write that down because there are definitely several ways. Let's look at the picture. Oh, look at this. Oh, no. Definitely a change. Where is the ice? Where is the snow? Okay, the ice. Definitely the ice. The ice is melting. In this case, that's not good for this beautiful animal's habitat. We're going to go to number 2. How responsible are humans for changes on the planet? And number 3, are these changes making the world better or worse? Okay, write it down, think about it, and when we meet in our lesson, we will discuss this. That brings us to reading 1. Our climate is changing. Of course, we'll look at vocabulary first, look at the pictures and read the texts. Pay attention to the bold-faced words. How greenhouse gases cause climate change. First picture. Most of the sun's heat hits the earth and escapes back into space. Some is trapped by the atmosphere and warms the earth. We've got the word escapes and atmosphere. Picture 2. Fossil fuels, coal, gasoline are burned and carbon dioxide, CO2, is released. Released CO2 and other gases are called greenhouse gas emissions. So we've got carbon dioxide, gases, and emissions. Third picture, greenhouse gases make the atmosphere thicker. As the sun's heat hits the earth, more and more of the heat is trapped and warms the earth. As CO2 increases, so does the temperature. This shows that there is a link between CO2 and temperature. This connection is evidence that climate change is caused by humans. We've got the words link and evidence. Go to the next page. Picture number 4. More energetic weather. Energetic. 5. Increasing droughts. 6. Rising sea levels and floods. Can we adapt to these changes? We've got the word adapt. Okay, choose the best definition for each word and phrase. We've got all the words together. It's number 1 until 10. You can pause your video and answer. Go ahead. That brings us to previewing. Now, we already know that when we preview, we look at the titles, the headings, the visuals of the text in order to predict the genre of the text and the purpose, which gives us the focus to know what to listen for and how to take notes, or you just annotate the text. After we've done that, we skim the text, and while we skim, we annotate on keywords. We read the introductory paragraph, every first sentence of every body paragraph, which is called topic sentence, right? And the concluding paragraph. Doing that helps us to get the main idea of the text. And then, if there are questions, we would go to the questions, annotate them for the topic and the purpose, and scan the text to find the answers to the questions. So when we scan, we just look over the text to find the keywords or synonyms for the keywords. Okay, the following article comes from a New Zealand government brochure. Read the title and the subtitles. What do you think the New Zealand government made this brochure? Why did they do that? Okay, I want you to tick off the answers. A, to explain what causes climate change. B, to get people to change their lifestyle. Or C, to warn us about the effects of climate change. What is the purpose for the New Zealand government to make this brochure? Okay, very good. We're now going to read the text, and while you do that, you can listen to it and read it, and please annotate it. But before you do that, please pause your video and skim the text first. Go ahead. Awesome. That brings us now to reading the text. I'm going to turn on the audio so you can read and listen along, and remember to annotate the body paragraphs on the keywords. Let's go. Our climate is changing, and it is going to keep changing.
Our climate is changing, and it is going to keep changing. Climate change. It's getting hotter. Our climate is changing, so you need to get used to it. It's changing because of what we humans do and the gases we have put into the atmosphere. We have already put so much gas into the atmosphere, the climate will keep changing for a long, long time. Some of the changes may be good, at least in the short term, and some may be bad, but change is coming. We have known for 30 years that the atmosphere was changing. We knew because there was an increase in carbon dioxide, CO2, the gas we breathe out, and the gas produced when we burn fossil fuels such as coal and gasoline. This is the same gas that is used by plants to make food. Before 1900, the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was 270 to 280 parts per million, ppm. Now it has grown to 394 parts per million. At the same time that carbon dioxide was increasing, something else was happening. The world was becoming hotter. It is this link, this connection between an increase in carbon dioxide and an increase in temperature that tells us that carbon dioxide is causing the warming. This evidence is proof that humans, in addition to nature, are causing climate change. Not just hotter. Since the atmosphere is getting hotter, it is also getting more energetic. This means that in some places it will be windier, in some places wetter, in some places drier. In some places it may even be cooler. That's why we talk about climate change rather than global warming. Although on average it will be warmer, it won't be warmer everywhere. Can we stop it? No. We can slow it, but we can't stop it for a long, long time. We have already made the greenhouse gas emissions that will keep the atmosphere changing for decades to come. Even if we could stop the world's greenhouse gas emissions from growing, the temperature would keep growing as fast as it is growing now. If we could reduce emissions by 50%, the world would still keep getting hotter for 100 years or more. But if we act soon, we can make sure the changes can be managed and kept to a minimum, and we can adapt to them. The greenhouse gases. Our activities make gases that cause climate change. Important gases are carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. We call these gases greenhouse gases because they warm the atmosphere like a greenhouse keeps plants warm. Carbon dioxide is released when we burn fossil fuels like coal and gasoline. Carbon dioxide has a bigger effect than all the other gases put together. Consequently, it is very important to decrease carbon dioxide. All these gases, the ones we produce and the water vapor in the atmosphere, warm the earth because they let the sun's heat come in, but stop some of the heat from escaping out to space. The bottom line: the climate is changing and is going to keep changing. Almost every country wants to reduce its emissions. If all the countries of the world act, and act soon, the problems of climate change can be reduced. Some predictions and results of climate change. Most of the world's land is north of the equator, the middle of the Earth. The farther north you go, the warmer and drier it will become. For example, Siberia has always been harsh and cold, but climate change could cause it to become temperate, not too warm and not too cold. Then it could be an attractive place to take a vacation. Since the soil of Siberia has never been farmed because it was always covered by snow, it would probably be excellent for farming. Agriculture and tourism could make Russia richer than any other country in the world. In contrast, Pakistan may become too hot for its inhabitants. Temperatures in the Punjab are often over 100 degrees Fahrenheit now. But what if climate change causes the temperature to stay above 120 or 130 degrees Fahrenheit? Another example is the Coraicales Glacier in Peru. As it melts, it has caused flooding in the valley. So now the valley often has too much water. Eventually, however, the glacier will disappear. When it does, the people in the valley will not have enough water, and it will be drier. Finally, Western Europe could experience much colder temperatures as a result of changing ocean temperatures.
Okay, very good. Now read the information in the chart about CO2 emissions. World emitters of carbon dioxide. In order to understand how big the problem of gas emissions is, it's helpful to look at how much is being produced and which countries are the biggest producers. The chart below shows how many metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions were being produced by the top 15 emitters in 2008. Wow, we have China, United States, European Union, India, Russia, Japan, Germany, Canada, Iran, United Kingdom, South Korea, Mexico, Italy, South Africa, and Saudi Arabia. Note that New Zealand is not in this group of top emitters of carbon dioxide. In fact, in 2008, New Zealand was ranked as the 73rd emitter with only 0.1% of emissions. That's like really, really cool. Really, really, really cool. Okay, that brings us to the main ideas, the main points. You're going to look at the 4 statements and write down the T for true or F for false for each statement. And if it is wrong, please rewrite the false statement. For example, number 1. The increase in carbon dioxide is related to our temperature changes. That's false. It is related to our global warming. Now, you can pause the video to answer number 2, 3, and 4. Great, that brings us to the details. It's more specific. We got to scan the text to find the answers. You're going to match the beginning of each sentence on the left with the best ending on the right. Now, there may be more than one correct answer. For instance, number 1, our climate is changing because C, we burn coal and gasoline. F, the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere has increased. And H, humans have put a lot of gases into the atmosphere. Yeah, so you can have more than one letter that fits with the sentence. or with the part of the sentence. You're going to answer number 2 until 9. Go ahead. Great, that brings us to making inferences, inferring purpose. Yeah, an inference is an educated guess about something that is not directly stated in a text. Yeah, you have to look at the facts and from there get a conclusion. A strong reader can understand the writer's purpose, even though the writer does not say it directly. Sometimes writers state their purpose directly, but sometimes it's indirectly. So you would have to figure out by paying notice to what has been said and how it has been said. Here we have the example. Before 1900, the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was 270 to 280 parts per million ppm. Now it has grown to 394 parts per million. What is the purpose of this text? C. To educate the reader about climate change. See, the text teaches us facts about greenhouse gases and climate change. The reader learns how the earth gets warmer. After reading the text closely, we can infer, or we can say we can conclude, that the purpose of the text is to educate us about climate change. Here we have another example. Signs of climate change: more energetic weather, increasing drought, rising sea levels, and floods. So what's the purpose? A. To warn the reader about climate change. The text warns us about situations brought by climate change that could be dangerous and perhaps deadly. So after reading the text closely, we can infer, we can conclude that the purpose of the text is to warn us about climate change. So sometimes the purpose is stated directly and sometimes indirectly, and we have to figure it out. Okay, reading 1 has 3 different types of texts. Yeah? I want you to match each text with its purpose. So we have number 1, 2, and 3, A, B, and C. Go ahead. Great. That brings us to the last part of our lesson today, expressing opinions, for which we will use PL, point, explanation, evidence, and linking back to the beginning, or RL, assertion, reasoning, evidence, and linking back. Number 1, some of the climate changes may be good, at least in the short term, and some may be bad. What do you think the good and bad changes will be? 2, the text says if we could cut emissions by half, the world would still keep getting hotter for 100 years or more. But if we act soon, we can make sure the changes can be managed and kept to a minimum, and we can adapt to them. In your opinion, what changes should be made immediately? 3, look at the world emitters chart. Is your country on the chart? If so, is it near the top, around the middle, or near the bottom? If not, where do you think it would be? How much does your country contribute to this problem? Okay, I want you to write your opinion about these 3 questions so we can discuss them when we meet each other in class. These are very good questions, very good points to think about and to discuss. Remember to use PL and or RL. What did we do today? We did our vocabulary, looking at the words in the context of sentences and short paragraph and looking at definitions that are connected to words and phrases. We did previewing the text. We read 3 different types of texts. I want you to write down what type of texts they are and the purpose they have. Yeah, so write down what is the genre of each and the purpose of all 3. I'm going to ask you that, so you got to answer that. We looked at the main points that we could find in the text and details by scanning the text. Also, we talked about making inferences, inferring purpose, which is sometimes directly stated and sometimes indirectly stated. And we expressed opinion by using PL or RL. Amazing! You did a good job today. Thank you very much. I'm going to see you very soon. God bless you. Bye, everyone.